9 things you should never say. Wisdom of life. Stoicism. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Have you ever wondered how the words you choose can influence your life, your mindset, and even your sense of peace? In this video, we're exploring the profound teachings of Stoicism to reveal 9 things that a truly wise person never says. These phrases may seem harmless, but they can subtly reinforce negative patterns of thought, limit your potential, and keep you trapped in a cycle of stress and frustration. By understanding why these phrases are best avoided and how they affect your mindset, you'll learn how to cultivate greater resilience, clarity, and peace of mind. So, if you're ready to adopt a new perspective, challenge old habits, and embrace a way of thinking that can transform your life, stick with us till the end. This is Stoic in Your Life, and today, we're about to discover how changing what we say can change how we live. 1. It's not fair. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. We often find ourselves uttering phrases that, without realizing it, shape our worldview and limit our growth. One of these phrases is, "It's not fair." We say this when we feel wronged, treated unjustly, or when circumstances don't align with our expectations. But let's pause for a moment and think, how helpful is this phrase? In reality, it does more harm than good. When you say, "It's not fair," you're acknowledging a sense of entitlement to how you believe things should be. Stoicism teaches us a powerful lesson. Life isn't supposed to conform to our desires. Instead, we need to adapt to life as it is. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By saying it's not fair, you're giving up your power and playing the victim, allowing external forces to dictate your mood and mindset. If you spend your days brooding over how unfair life has been, you're missing the point of living. Instead, the Stoics advise us to take responsibility for our reactions. Life will never be entirely fair, and the universe doesn't promise fairness. It promises challenges, opportunities, and lessons. The more you focus on the perceived unfairness, the more you reinforce a victim mentality that prevents you from seeing a way forward. You end up wasting valuable time and energy on complaining rather than finding solutions or accepting the situation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think of a situation at work where you didn't get the promotion you believed you deserved. You might feel angry and think, "It's not fair." But what if, instead of wallowing in frustration, you chose to analyze what went wrong? Could you improve your skills, network better, or seek feedback to prepare for the next opportunity? This shift from lamenting the situation to taking action empowers you. The key here is acceptance and resilience, 2 traits deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. Seneca noted, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The real question is not whether life is fair, but how you can rise above the challenges it throws at you. This mindset shift doesn't mean ignoring injustices or being passive. It's about conserving your energy for what you can control. Complaining changes nothing, but constructive action and rational thinking can transform your circumstances. Modern life is full of instances where things may seem unfair, whether it's at work, in relationships, or even in traffic. Yet, if you adopt the Stoic approach, you focus on how you can make the best of your current situation, rather than obsessing over how you think the world should treat you. In doing so, you strengthen your resolve and become more capable of handling future setbacks with grace and dignity. When you feel tempted to say, "It's not fair," replace it with a question, "What can I do to improve the situation?" This proactive approach will help you reclaim your peace of mind and encourage you to take steps toward a better outcome. Imagine a conversation where you spend most of your time highlighting everything that went wrong, everything that was unfair. What would that do? It would keep you stuck, caught in a cycle of negativity that doesn't allow for growth. Now think of a different conversation, one where you accept the situation, acknowledge the challenges, and say, "What can I learn from this? What can I change?" This simple shift in dialogue opens doors to new perspectives, solutions, and most importantly, peace. Life is not a straight line. It's a series of events that may not always go as planned. But that's where Stoicism shines, teaching us that peace comes not from a perfect world but from a perfect mindset. The world won't always bend to our desires, but we can adjust our sails to navigate through its unpredictable waters. As the great Stoic Seneca once said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In other words, if you lack clarity and purpose, you'll constantly be at the mercy of the world's whims. So, for every instance where you think, "It's not fair," try to shift your perspective. When a business deal falls through, a relationship ends, or a goal seems out of reach, remind yourself of this. Life is about adaptation, resilience, and growth. Fairness is not guaranteed, but your ability to face the situation with strength and wisdom is entirely in your hands. As a man navigating through modern challenges, understanding this principle is crucial. You can't control how others act, but you can always control your response, and that is where your power lies. Each time you choose to focus on what you can change, you grow stronger, wiser, and more equipped to handle life's ups and downs. If you find yourself dwelling on how life hasn't treated you fairly, ask instead, "How can I grow from this? What lesson is hidden here that I need to uncover?" This isn't about ignoring real-world injustices, but about changing the way you interact with them. Modern society often conditions us to think that fairness is owed to us, but adopting a Stoic mindset helps us see things more clearly and focus on what truly matters. As you go through your day, remember the Stoic principle. Man is affected not by events, but by the view he takes of them. Let this principle guide your actions, thoughts, and words. When faced with adversity, don't shy away and say, "It's not fair." Stand up, accept what you cannot change, and channel your energy into what you can influence. This shift in mindset can be transformative, allowing you to approach life with a sense of calm and confidence, rather than anger and frustration. Over time, you'll notice how this way of thinking strengthens not just your resolve, but also your ability to adapt, learn, and grow. To live a life rooted in wisdom is to understand that fairness is not promised, but resilience, patience, and strength can always be cultivated. By practicing this, you are not just learning to deal with life. You are mastering the art of living. So next time, when life presents a challenge and that familiar voice whispers, "It's not fair," let a stronger, wiser voice remind you, "This is my chance to grow, to learn, and to become better." 2. I don't have time. I don't have time. How often do you catch yourself saying this? It's a phrase that has become almost automatic, a knee-jerk response to requests, opportunities, or even things that you know would benefit you. But let's pause for a moment and think about what this really means. When you say, "I don't have time," what you're actually saying is that something else is more important. This isn't about not having the hours in the day, it's about priorities. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely put it, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The truth is, we all have the same 24 hours, and how we choose to spend them is a reflection of what we value most. When you declare you don't have time, you're subtly reinforcing the idea that your schedule is out of your control, but that's hardly ever true. Think about it. Have you ever been swamped with work, but when a friend called with exciting news, you found yourself dropping everything to listen? Or maybe you've spent hours scrolling through social media, then turned around and said you didn't have time to read that book you've been meaning to finish. The fact is, time management is less about squeezing more into your day and more about understanding what's truly important to you. A common scenario might be a person who desperately wants to get fit, but insists they don't have time for the gym. Yet they find themselves binge-watching a new series every night. The issue here isn't a lack of time, but a lack of prioritization. Now let's talk about a modern example. Consider a busy entrepreneur who always claims to have no time for a family dinner. Day in and day out, he tells his loved ones that he's too busy. Business meetings, emails, projects, all of these seem to fill up every slot in his schedule. One day he gets a call. His child has achieved something wonderful and wants to celebrate. Finally, he realizes that no meeting, no task, is more important than this moment. He drops everything, joins the dinner, and finds joy he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't that he had suddenly found extra hours in the day. It was that he realized his priorities were skewed. So, the question is, what are you choosing to prioritize? Is your day filled with activities that genuinely matter? Or are you finding ways to distract yourself from what's really important? The Stoics encourage us to be brutally honest about how we spend our time. If you find yourself saying you don't have time to exercise, meditate, or catch up with loved ones, ask yourself if this is truly the case. Maybe it's not about not having time, but about avoiding discomfort. After all, it's much easier to say you're too busy than to face the fear of failing at something new or uncomfortable. But avoidance doesn't lead to growth, and the Stoic approach is to lean into challenges, to take control of your time and make deliberate, meaningful choices. Instead of saying, "I don't have time," try asking yourself, "How can I make time for what truly matters?" Perhaps you can wake up 30 minutes earlier, or swap out an hour of watching TV for something more productive. Maybe it's about learning to say no to less important things so you can say yes to the ones that align with your goals. If you feel your schedule is running you rather than the other way around, it's time to take a step back and reassess. The reality is, claiming not to have time is often just a mask for indecision or fear of change. Saying, "I don't have time," is a way of letting life happen to you instead of taking charge. So ask yourself, are you truly too busy, or are you just uncomfortable with what it would take to make a change? As you go through your day, try to identify how you spend your time. If you track it honestly, you'll likely find pockets of time that could be reallocated to something more meaningful. This is not about cramming every minute with productivity, but about investing your time wisely. The Stoic perspective reminds us to focus on what we can control, and time is one of those precious resources. You can't make more of it, but you can control how you use it. Instead of seeing time as a limited commodity you're always short on, start seeing it as an opportunity to align your actions with your values. The next time you're tempted to say, "I don't have time," think of Seneca's reminder. Life is long if you know how to use it. Consider what you might be avoiding and why. Is there a deeper reason you haven't made time for that task or that person? By addressing the root cause, you can take proactive steps to reshape your schedule. It's about making conscious choices. Decide what's important and give it the time it deserves. The key lesson here is that time isn't something that just slips away from you. It's something you actively decide how to spend. When you realize this, you regain a sense of control over your life, and with that control, you can make space for the things that bring real value, meaning, and joy. Don't let "I don't have time" be an excuse for living a life that doesn't fulfill you. Take control, make deliberate choices, and watch how the quality of your life improves. 3. It's impossible. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "It's impossible"? Maybe you've been faced with a challenging task at work, a difficult situation in your personal life, or a goal that feels too far out of reach, and your mind immediately jumps to that conclusion. But have you ever stopped to consider what this phrase truly does to your mindset? When you declare that something is impossible, you're not just describing a situation. You're putting up a mental barrier that stops you from even trying. The truth is, saying "it's impossible" closes doors before you've had the chance to see what's on the other side. As Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This means that the limits we often see are not out in the world, but within our own minds. Think about it. How many times in history have things that once seemed impossible been achieved simply because someone refused to give up? The invention of flight, space exploration, curing diseases. All of these were deemed impossible at one point. But people dared to believe otherwise, and they changed the world. Saying it's impossible is, in a way, giving up before the battle has even started. It's an easy way out, a defense mechanism that allows you to avoid failure. But the cost of this mindset is far too high. When you label something as impossible, you shut down your ability to think creatively and find solutions. The Stoics teach us that life is full of obstacles, but these are not meant to be avoided. They are meant to be faced, understood, and overcome. The words of Epictetus resonate here. Difficulties are things that show a person who they are. Imagine a time when you thought something was out of reach. Maybe you wanted to learn a new skill, start a business, or improve your health. Did you let the fear of it being too difficult stop you? Or did you find a way to push through that initial doubt? The truth is, the word impossible is often more about fear than reality. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of change. But what if you approached these challenges with a different mindset? Instead of saying, "This is impossible," try asking yourself, "What would it take to make this possible?" This shift opens up a world of opportunities because now, instead of seeing a wall, you're looking for ways to climb over it, walk around it, or even break through it. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, who is famous for inventing the light bulb. Did you know he failed over 1,000 times before he succeeded? When asked about these failures, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This perspective is the key to resilience and innovation. If Edison had said, "It's impossible," we might still be sitting in the dark. The lesson here is clear. Impossibility is often a matter of perspective. The more you tell yourself something cannot be done, the more you start to believe it, and the less likely you are to take any action towards making it happen. In our daily lives, we encounter situations that seem daunting. Whether it's advancing in our careers, maintaining relationships, or tackling personal goals. How often do we let the fear of failure convince us that our aspirations are out of reach? When you say, "It's impossible," you're not only limiting your present actions but also sabotaging your future potential. Instead of focusing on the obstacles, focus on what you can control. The Stoics believed that while you cannot change everything around you, you have full control over your thoughts, reactions, and efforts. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that the very obstacles you face can become the path to your growth if you choose to see them that way. So next time you're faced with a challenge, don't let your first reaction be to call it impossible. Ask yourself, "What can I do to make this possible?" Break it down, take small steps, and move forward. Remember, every big achievement starts with the belief that it can be done, even when no one else thinks so. In modern life, it's easy to get overwhelmed by everything that seems to be working against you. Deadlines, responsibilities, and unexpected problems can all add up, making it feel like success is impossible. But if you adopt the Stoic mindset, you start to see that each problem is a puzzle, and each puzzle has a solution if you have the patience to find it. Maybe you've been dreaming of a career change but keep telling yourself it's impossible because of your age, lack of experience, or fear of the unknown. Instead of shutting down the possibility, think of it as a challenge to be planned and navigated. Do you need to learn new skills? Network with people in the field? Start with small, manageable steps, and before you know it, that impossible dream becomes a realistic goal. Life will always present challenges, but they are not there to stop you. They are there to push you to find out just how capable you are. The next time the word impossible crosses your mind, think of it as a red flag, a reminder to pause and rethink your approach. Ask yourself open-ended questions. What can I do differently? Who can I ask for help? What resources do I have that I'm not using? These questions will force you to think creatively and see possibilities where there seem to be none. And most importantly, remember the words of Seneca. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Prepare yourself, be open to new approaches, and don't let the fear of the unknown keep you from taking the first step. Ultimately, the lesson is simple. Don't limit yourself with the word impossible. It's a mindset that keeps you stuck, prevents progress, and blinds you to the many ways in which you can grow and succeed. Replace it with questions, with curiosity, with determination. When you do, you'll find that many things you once thought were out of reach are closer than you imagined. Challenge your doubts, embrace the obstacles, and see them for what they are: opportunities for growth, strength, and wisdom. 4. It's not my fault. He who blames others has a long way to go on his journey. He who blames himself is halfway there. He who blames no one has arrived. This powerful quote from a Zen proverb sets the stage for our next topic, the phrase, "It's not my fault." How often have you heard someone say this or even found yourself saying it when things go wrong? It's a natural reaction. When a project fails, a relationship falls apart, or a plan doesn't go as expected, our instinct is to point the finger elsewhere. But the Stoic approach teaches us that blaming others or external factors strips us of our power. As Epictetus said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By consistently saying, "It's not my fault," you're pushing away responsibility, and with it, the opportunity to learn and grow. When you deny responsibility, you're effectively giving away your power to change the situation. Life is full of challenges, and many times things will not go as planned. But the Stoic way is not to shy away from difficulties or pass the blame onto others. It is about owning your actions, understanding where you might have fallen short, and looking for ways to improve. Think about it. When was the last time you heard someone take full responsibility for a failure? It's a rare quality, but one that commands respect and leads to growth. Instead of saying, "It's not my fault," consider asking yourself, what part did I play in this situation, and how can I do better next time? This question encourages introspection and leads to personal development. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This reminds us that while we may not control everything that happens, we have full control over how we choose to respond. Let's bring this to modern life. Imagine a manager who always blames his team when a project fails. He insists that the team didn't meet deadlines, didn't communicate effectively, or didn't execute the plan correctly. Each time he says, "It's not my fault," because he believes his instructions were clear. But over time, his team loses motivation and trust in him because they feel unsupported and scapegoated. Now picture a different scenario where the same manager faces a similar setback, but chooses to approach it differently. Instead of placing blame, he asks, "Where did I go wrong in guiding the team? What can I do to ensure we have a better outcome next time?" This simple shift in attitude not only boosts morale, but also fosters a culture of accountability and growth. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Owning up to our part in any situation, even if it's minor, empowers us to take charge and make changes. When you constantly say, "It's not my fault," you're building a mental shield that prevents you from seeing areas where you can improve. This might provide temporary comfort, but it ultimately leaves you stagnant. The Stoics teach that every obstacle, every failure, is a chance to learn. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." By not taking responsibility, you miss out on these valuable lessons. Instead of avoiding blame, face it head on, analyze it, and use it as a stepping stone to grow. Accepting responsibility doesn't mean taking on unnecessary guilt. It means acknowledging your role and finding ways to adapt and improve. This mindset not only helps you grow, but also earns the respect of those around you, whether at work, at home, or in any social setting. Let's delve deeper. The next time you're in a situation where things don't go as planned, take a moment before you react. Instead of immediately thinking about who or what to blame, ask yourself, what could I have done differently? This simple question shifts your focus from external factors to internal solutions. It's a powerful way to develop self-awareness, which is a cornerstone of Stoic practice. Think of Thomas Edison, who famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about his repeated failures, he didn't say, "It's not my fault," or blame the circumstances. Instead, he saw each failure as a lesson, a step closer to success. His mindset was, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he had chosen to blame others or give up. Our world would be a much darker place, quite literally. Saying "it's not my fault" is a refusal to engage with reality. It's like saying, "I have no control over this situation," when, in fact, you always have control over your response and actions. For example, in a personal relationship, when arguments arise, it's easy to say, "They are the one causing the problem." But how often do we take a step back and reflect, asking, "What am I contributing to this issue? What can I change about my approach?" This doesn't mean you are always the problem, but it does mean you are willing to look at the whole picture, which gives you a clearer path to resolution. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This statement encourages us to act, to take responsibility, and to be the change we want to see, rather than shifting blame to external forces. In the context of modern life, we are surrounded by distractions, demands, and challenges. There will always be reasons to say, "It's not my fault." The economy, your boss, your upbringing, or even just bad luck. But adopting the Stoic mindset teaches us to focus on what we can control. Can you change the economy? No, but you can adapt your skills and approach. Can you change your boss's behavior? Probably not, but you can improve how you communicate with them. The key message here is empowerment through responsibility. It's about understanding that shifting blame won't change your situation, but shifting your mindset and actions can. So the next time you feel tempted to say, "It's not my fault," remember the words of Epictetus. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. This isn't about accepting blame for everything. It's about being accountable for what you can influence. By taking responsibility, you regain control over your life and become more resilient, adaptable, and capable. This is the Stoic way, taking ownership, learning from every experience, and constantly striving to be better. The real power lies not in pointing fingers, but in recognizing where we can grow and acting on it. Next time, instead of saying, "It's not my fault," ask yourself, "How can I turn this situation around?" and watch how your life begins to change for the better. If you've made it this far, you're truly committed to embracing the wisdom of Stoicism. Drop a comment saying, "I choose my words wisely," to show you're ready to transform your mindset and life. Stick around. There's so much more wisdom to uncover. 5. I will never change. Change is the only constant in life. This famous saying, attributed to the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, speaks volumes about our tendency to resist change, even when it's essential. Yet how often do you hear people say, "I will never change"? Maybe you've caught yourself thinking this too, especially when faced with situations that challenge your habits, beliefs, or comfort zone. But let's pause and reflect. When you say, "I will never change," what are you really committing to? You're essentially choosing to stay exactly where you are, rejecting growth, new opportunities, and the chance to improve your life. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end," which means that change is a natural part of growth in life. When you resist change, you build a wall around yourself, cutting off the possibility of learning, evolving, or becoming a better version of yourself. This mindset can be especially limiting in today's fast-paced world, where adapting is more crucial than ever. Think about it. How many successful people do you know who refuse to change? Whether it's entrepreneurs adjusting their strategies, professionals learning new skills, or even parents adapting their approach to raising children, the most successful individuals understand that change is not a threat, but an opportunity. For instance, consider someone who refuses to learn new technology at work because they believe they're too old to learn something new. By clinging to the phrase, "I will never change," they risk becoming obsolete and missing out on the benefits that come with adapting to new tools and ways of working. In contrast, those who embrace change, no matter how daunting it might seem, often find themselves growing, thriving, and succeeding in areas they never imagined possible. Let's bring this concept into a more personal perspective. Think about your own life. Have there been times when you resisted change, maybe out of fear, stubbornness, or a simple desire to stay comfortable? Maybe you've avoided changing your diet, despite knowing it could improve your health, or maybe you've stuck with the same old habits that aren't serving you anymore because changing feels too difficult. But ask yourself this: what could your life look like if you embraced change instead of fearing it? Instead of saying, "I will never change," what if you said, "I am open to change"? This small shift in mindset could be the key to unlocking a better, healthier, and happier version of yourself. Marcus Aurelius, a key figure in Stoicism, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a reminder that while we may not control everything around us, we can control how we react, adapt, and grow. A powerful example of the benefits of change can be seen in the story of a man who once believed he could never change his career path. He had been working in the same job for over 20 years, and although he felt unfulfilled, he was convinced it was too late to learn something new. Then he lost his job unexpectedly and was forced to reconsider his options. Faced with no choice but to adapt, he decided to learn new skills and eventually started a new career in a field he had always been interested in, but was too afraid to pursue. What he thought would be the end turned out to be a new beginning, and he discovered a sense of fulfillment he hadn't felt in years. This is the power of change. It can be intimidating, but it's also a doorway to new opportunities. Instead of saying, "I will never change," consider what could happen if you opened yourself up to the possibility of growth. Many people resist change because they associate it with loss. They fear losing their comfort, routine, or identity. But change doesn't have to mean losing who you are. It can mean evolving into who you were always meant to be. As the Stoics believed, change is a necessary part of life's journey, and resisting it only brings unnecessary suffering. Take a moment to think about how the world has changed in the past decade. Technologies, social norms, and even the way we communicate have all evolved rapidly. Those who adapt tend to thrive, while those who resist often find themselves left behind. It's not about changing for the sake of change. It's about recognizing when change is necessary for your growth, well-being, and success. If you find yourself clinging to old ways, ask yourself why. Is it fear of failure, fear of judgment, or perhaps the comfort of familiarity? The truth is, every significant achievement requires some level of change. Growth demands that you step out of your comfort zone and into the unknown. And it is this process of change that teaches resilience, creativity, and strength. Seneca said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." By daring to change, you are daring to improve, learn, and succeed. One of the key lessons in Stoicism is the importance of adaptability. The Stoics teach that while the world around us is constantly changing, we can find peace by adjusting our perceptions and actions. When you say, "I will never change," you are essentially rejecting this core principle. Life will change whether you want it to or not. Relationships will evolve, careers will shift, and the world will keep moving forward. Instead of trying to stop the tide, learn to ride the wave. Think about how adaptable plants are. They bend with the wind instead of resisting it. This flexibility is what keeps them standing strong, and the same principle applies to our lives. So, the next time you catch yourself saying, "I will never change," take a step back and reflect. What are you really resisting? Could this change lead to something positive? Could it open new doors, bring new opportunities, or even teach you something valuable about yourself? Instead of fearing change, see it as a chance to grow, to become more resilient, and to build a life that truly reflects who you are. Change doesn't mean losing yourself. It means enhancing who you are. As you navigate your journey, remember the words of Epictetus. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. When you stop resisting and start learning, you open yourself up to a world of possibilities. Ultimately, the lesson here is that change is not the enemy. Stagnation is. By declaring, "I will never change," you're choosing to remain stuck, and in doing so, you're denying yourself the chance to grow, evolve, and experience life to the fullest. Growth requires change, and change requires courage. So, dare to be brave, dare to be open, and dare to embrace the unknown. When you shift your mindset from fear to curiosity, from resistance to acceptance, you'll find that change isn't something to dread but a powerful tool to become the best version of yourself. What could you achieve if you let go of your resistance to change? That's a question only you can answer, but the possibilities are endless. Seneca said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." By daring to change, you are daring to improve, learn, and succeed. One of the key lessons in Stoicism is the importance of adaptability. The Stoics teach that while the world around us is constantly changing, we can find peace by adjusting our perceptions and actions. When you say, "I will never change," you are essentially rejecting this core principle. Life will change whether you want it to or not. Relationships will evolve, careers will shift, and the world will keep moving forward. Instead of trying to stop the tide, learn to ride the wave. Think about how adaptable plants are. They bend with the wind instead of resisting it. This flexibility is what keeps them standing strong, and the same principle applies to our lives. So, the next time you catch yourself saying, "I will never change," take a step back and reflect. What are you really resisting? Could this change lead to something positive? Could it open new doors, bring new opportunities, or even teach you something valuable about yourself? Instead of fearing change, see it as a chance to grow, to become more resilient, and to build a life that truly reflects who you are. Change doesn't mean losing yourself. It means enhancing who you are. As you navigate your journey, remember the words of Epictetus. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. When you stop resisting and start learning, you open yourself up to a world of possibilities. Ultimately, the lesson here is that change is not the enemy. Stagnation is. By declaring, "I will never change," you're choosing to remain stuck, and in doing so, you're denying yourself the chance to grow, evolve, and experience life to the fullest. Growth requires change, and change requires courage. So dare to be brave, dare to be open, and dare to embrace the unknown. When you shift your mindset from fear to curiosity, from resistance to acceptance, you'll find that change isn't something to dread but a powerful tool to become the best version of yourself. What could you achieve if you let go of your resistance to change? That's a question only you can answer, but the possibilities are endless. 6. I'm always right. The greatest obstacle to learning is thinking you already know. Epictetus. This profound quote sets the stage for our next discussion on a phrase that can silently limit your growth. I'm always right. How often have you come across people who refuse to consider other perspectives, convinced that their way is the only way? Maybe you've even caught yourself thinking the same. It's a phrase that can be comforting because it gives a sense of control and certainty, but it's also a dangerous mindset that can close you off from new ideas, prevent learning, and damage relationships. By insisting that you're always right, you build a mental wall that blocks constructive criticism, valuable advice, and the chance to grow. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it." This means that true wisdom comes from being open to ideas even if they challenge your current beliefs. When you tell yourself, "I'm always right," you're shutting down the opportunity to learn from others. The world is filled with knowledge, experiences, and insights that go far beyond any single person's understanding. By assuming you have all the answers, you miss out on the chance to expand your perspective and develop your wisdom. In the Stoic philosophy, humility is seen as a virtue. It means understanding that there is always more to learn, and every encounter is an opportunity to grow. This doesn't mean you need to doubt yourself at every turn, but it does mean recognizing that there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence allows you to stand firm in your beliefs, while still being open to the possibility of being wrong, while arrogance makes you cling to your opinions even when they don't serve you. Think of a time when you were in a conversation, and the other person was adamant that their point of view was the only correct one. Did it feel like a productive dialogue? Or did it feel like talking to a brick wall? When we insist that we are always right, we create that same experience for others. It's a behavior that can lead to misunderstandings, unresolved conflicts, and even damaged relationships. If you're always right, it leaves no room for discussion, compromise, or growth. So the question becomes, do you want to be right, or do you want to be effective? Being right might win you an argument, but being effective will build trust, understanding, and lasting solutions. The Stoics teach that true wisdom comes from questioning, reflecting, and learning, qualities that can't flourish in a mind that is closed off. Consider a modern example. A business leader who believes that their strategy is perfect and refuses to listen to feedback from their team. Even if their intentions are good, this approach stifles creativity and can lead to missed opportunities. On the other hand, a leader who asks for input, listens to concerns, and is willing to adapt their strategy demonstrates strength, not weakness. They show that they value the collective wisdom of their team, and this openness often leads to better results. The same principle applies in our personal lives. Have you ever been in a disagreement with a loved one where both sides were so convinced of being right that nothing was resolved? This kind of stubbornness can create unnecessary distance between people. Instead, if you're willing to ask, could there be another way to see this? Or, what can I learn from their perspective? You'll find that conversations become more meaningful, and you build deeper connections. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This is a reminder that growth is a continuous journey. The moment you decide you're always right, you stop moving forward, and in a way, you stop living fully. You might feel secure in your current beliefs, but this comfort zone can quickly turn into a cage. When you open yourself up to learning, even if it means admitting you were wrong, you give yourself the freedom to evolve. You become more resilient, adaptable, and capable of handling the complexities of life. There's a certain strength in being able to say, "I don't know," or "I was wrong." It shows that you're secure enough in yourself to acknowledge your limitations, and that's where real confidence begins. Now let's address how this can apply directly to you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your insistence on being right created more problems than it solved? Maybe it was at work, with a friend, or during a heated family discussion. Think about how the situation might have been different if you approached it with curiosity rather than certainty. Could you have learned something new? Could the conversation have been more constructive? When you're open to the idea that you might not have all the answers, you invite collaboration, dialogue, and solutions that might have never been possible if you were determined to be right. Asking open-ended questions like, "What am I missing?" or "How do you see this?" can turn a tense conversation into a productive exchange. In modern life, we're constantly bombarded with information, opinions, and perspectives. Social media, news, and even casual conversations can quickly become battlegrounds where people fight to prove they are right. But what if, instead of arguing, we asked more questions, listened more carefully, and tried to understand where others were coming from? This doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone, but it does mean you're willing to expand your perspective and grow from the experience. After all, the goal of communication isn't just to be heard, it's to connect, to learn, and to grow. The Stoics understood that wisdom is not about knowing everything, but about being open to everything. The takeaway here is simple, yet profound. Don't let the need to be right hold you back from growth. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's self-deception and ignorance. Adopting this mindset doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It means you value truth over ego, progress over pride. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "I'm always right," pause and ask yourself, what if there's something here that I'm not seeing? What can I learn? You might be surprised at how much more you can gain from being open than from being right. Ultimately, life is too complex, diverse, and unpredictable for anyone to have all the answers all the time. By embracing humility and remaining open to different viewpoints, you don't lose authority. You gain it. People respect those who are willing to listen, adapt, and learn, because it shows strength and wisdom. So let go of the need to always be right and replace it with the desire to always be learning. This simple shift can change your life in ways you might never expect. It can improve your relationships, enhance your problem-solving skills, and make you more adaptable in an ever-changing world. Remember, the smartest people are not those who have all the answers, but those who are constantly searching for them. 7. I don't care. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke. This powerful quote captures the essence of why saying "I don't care" can be so damaging, not only to others, but also to yourself. When people say, "I don't care," it's often a way to shield themselves from emotional investment, responsibility, or the effort required to address a situation. But this phrase, although it might sound casual, can signify a deeper issue. Whether it's about not caring about a task at work, a relationship, or even a social issue, this mindset can lead to complacency, missed opportunities, and a lack of growth. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "What we do now echoes in eternity." In other words, every action or inaction has consequences, and choosing not to care can have a ripple effect on your life and the lives of those around you. Think about it. When was the last time you said, "I don't care," and truly meant it? Maybe you were tired of dealing with a problem, or perhaps you felt it wasn't your responsibility. But have you ever stopped to consider what that attitude actually costs you? When you choose not to care, you're effectively choosing to disconnect from the world, from others, and even from yourself. You're telling yourself that certain things don't matter, and by doing so, you close the door on potential growth, connection, and understanding. It's easy to say you don't care when you're faced with something challenging, but the Stoics teach that it's precisely in these moments that you should lean in, not pull back. As Seneca wisely put it, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. This means that engaging with life, even when it's difficult, is what builds true strength and character. Let's look at a common example in modern life. You're at work, and your team is struggling with a project. Deadlines are approaching, stress levels are high, and it feels like nothing is going according to plan. It's tempting to throw up your hands and say, "I don't care. It's not my problem." But what happens when you do that? You not only miss an opportunity to contribute and potentially find a solution, but you also lose the respect of your colleagues. By choosing not to care, you're signaling that you're not a team player, and this can have long-lasting consequences on your career and relationships. On the other hand, choosing to care, even when it's hard, shows commitment, resilience, and a willingness to engage with challenges head-on. It's these moments of stepping up that define who you are, both to yourself and to others. Consider the story of a man who worked for years in a job he didn't particularly enjoy. Day after day, he would say, "I don't care. I'm just here to get through the day." But then something changed. One day, his company was facing a crisis, and rather than continuing to say he didn't care, he decided to get involved. He started taking on more responsibility, offering ideas, and actively participating in finding solutions. In the process, he discovered new skills, built stronger relationships with his colleagues, and ultimately found a sense of purpose he had been missing. By choosing to care, even when it was easier not to, he transformed not only his career but his entire outlook on life. This story serves as a reminder that caring is not a weakness. It's a source of strength that can lead to unexpected growth and success. So why do people often default to, "I don't care"? The answer is usually rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of being judged, or fear of investing in something that may not work out. It feels safer to stay detached, to avoid the risk of disappointment or conflict. But the problem is, this kind of safety comes at a cost. When you refuse to care, you limit your potential and cut yourself off from experiences that could enrich your life. The Stoics teach that life is not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with courage, wisdom, and resilience. Epictetus famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This means that true freedom comes from taking responsibility, caring about your actions, and striving to improve, even when it's difficult. If you find yourself saying, "I don't care" often, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What would happen if I did care? Would it require more effort, more vulnerability, or more patience? Sure, but it might also lead to growth, deeper connections, and a more fulfilling life. It's okay to protect your energy and set boundaries, but there's a difference between healthy detachment and emotional apathy. When you choose not to care about anything, you're essentially giving up control over your life. Caring doesn't mean you have to solve every problem or take on every burden, but it does mean being present, engaged, and willing to make an effort where it counts. Think of it as an investment. When you care, you invest in yourself and the world around you, and like any good investment, it has the potential to yield great returns. In a world where it's easy to be cynical, where people often hide behind screens and avoid real engagement, choosing to care is a radical act. It means showing up, even when it's inconvenient. It means listening, even when it's easier to tune out. It means taking action, even when you're not sure what the outcome will be. And yes, it means being vulnerable, but as Brené Brown says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. This is exactly what the Stoics practiced, facing life head-on, accepting what they could not control, and taking responsibility for what they could. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "I don't care," pause for a moment and ask, why not? What would happen if you chose to care? Even just a little bit. Could it open a door you hadn't considered? Could it lead to a conversation that changes your perspective? Could it allow you to help someone else, or even yourself? Life is not about coasting through detached and indifferent. It's about engaging, learning, and growing. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Caring is not a sign of weakness but of strength, and it's what will help you build a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. Ultimately, saying, "I don't care," might seem like an easy way out, but it's also a missed opportunity. It's a refusal to participate fully in life. When you care, you're choosing to take part in your own journey, to make an impact, and to live with intention. It's not about caring about everything, but about finding those things that matter and dedicating yourself to them. Remember, the most significant changes in history, the most inspiring stories, and the most meaningful relationships all began with someone who chose to care. What will you choose? That's a question only you can answer, but I encourage you to think about it the next time you're tempted to shrug your shoulders and say, "I don't care." Because the truth is, caring could be the key to unlocking a more purposeful, connected, and fulfilling life. 8. I will never be happy. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. This powerful quote reminds us that happiness is not something to be found outside of ourselves, but something that is cultivated within. Yet many people fall into the trap of saying, "I will never be happy." This statement might stem from feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges, disappointments, or setbacks, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that traps you in a cycle of negativity and prevents you from seeing the possibilities for joy and fulfillment that exist all around you. When you say, "I will never be happy," you're essentially giving up on the idea that you can improve your life, that things can get better, and that there is hope for change. It's like putting a full stop where there should only be a comma. The Stoics believe that true happiness doesn't depend on external factors, but on our inner state of mind. Epictetus famously said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." This is a reminder that if you're constantly looking for happiness outside of yourself, you'll always be chasing something that feels just out of reach. Let's address why people might feel that happiness is impossible for them. Maybe you're going through a difficult phase in your life, struggling with work, relationships, or personal issues that seem insurmountable. You might have experienced loss, failure, or a series of disappointments that make it hard to see the bright side. But here's a question. Are these external circumstances really dictating your happiness? Or is it your mindset that's holding you back? The Stoic approach teaches that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we do have control over how we interpret and respond to these events. You might not be able to change the past, but you can change how you choose to move forward. Take the example of someone who has lost their job. It's a situation that would understandably bring about feelings of stress, fear, and uncertainty. It's easy to think, "I will never be happy again because I lost my job." But what if instead of focusing on the loss, you asked, "What new opportunities could this situation bring? What skills can I develop, or what new path can I explore?" This shift in thinking can be life-changing. There are countless stories of people who were fired or let go from their jobs, only to discover a new career path that brought them more fulfillment than they ever thought possible. If they had chosen to believe that happiness was out of their reach, they might have missed these new opportunities altogether. Another way to think about this is through the idea of gratitude. How often do you focus on what's missing from your life instead of appreciating what's already there? Maybe you have good health, a roof over your head, friends who care about you, or even small joys like a cup of coffee in the morning or a moment of peace at the end of a long day. When you focus on what you lack, it's easy to feel like happiness is something you can never attain. But when you start to practice gratitude, you begin to see that there are many things, no matter how small, that can bring a sense of contentment and peace. As Seneca said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "I will never be happy," stop and ask yourself why you believe that. Is it because you're waiting for something external to change? Are you putting conditions on your happiness, telling yourself that you'll be happy only when you get a promotion, find a partner, or achieve a certain goal? If so, you're setting yourself up for disappointment because these external factors are constantly changing and they are largely out of your control. Instead, try shifting your focus to what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your attitudes. Happiness doesn't have to be a grand, elusive thing. It can be found in small, everyday moments if you choose to see them. One of the most powerful lessons from Stoicism is the practice of acceptance. It doesn't mean resigning yourself to a life of misery. It means acknowledging that there are things you cannot change and finding peace within that acceptance. It's about shifting your focus from what you don't have to what you can create with what you do have. Think about it this way. If you constantly tell yourself that you will never be happy, you are reinforcing that belief every single day. But if you start to tell yourself that happiness is possible, even if just in small moments, you begin to open yourself up to new ways of thinking and being. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." In modern life, we're often led to believe that happiness comes from external achievements, having a bigger house, a nicer car, more money, or a perfect relationship. But the reality is that even when people achieve these things, they can still feel unfulfilled. Why? Because they've based their happiness on something external and temporary. True happiness, as the Stoics teach, comes from within. It's about cultivating a state of mind that is resilient, content, and capable of finding joy in the present moment. So, how can you start shifting your mindset today? Start by practicing gratitude. Every day, write down 3 things you are thankful for, no matter how small. When you start to focus on what you already have, you'll begin to see more opportunities for happiness around you. The message is clear. Stop waiting for happiness to come from outside sources. Stop saying, "I will never be happy," and start asking, "How can I find happiness in this moment, with what I have right now?" This doesn't mean that life won't have its challenges, or that you should ignore your struggles. It means that you recognize that happiness is not a destination you arrive at, but a way of traveling. It's about finding peace and contentment within yourself, even when things don't go as planned. Remember, the Stoics believed that life's true power lies in our ability to navigate the ups and downs with grace and resilience. So, instead of letting the thought, "I will never be happy," dictate your life, take control of your narrative. Ask yourself what small steps you can take each day to shift your perspective, embrace gratitude, and find moments of joy. The key lesson here is that happiness is not a distant, unreachable goal, but something you can cultivate every day through your actions, thoughts, and choices. It starts with changing the narrative you tell yourself. So next time you feel the weight of that phrase, "I will never be happy," remind yourself of Marcus Aurelius' words and let them guide you. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Change your thoughts, and you will change your world. Thank you so much for joining us in this video on our channel. We hope you found these insights helpful and thought-provoking. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What's one phrase you think people should avoid saying, and why? Have you caught yourself using any of these phrases? And if so, how did you overcome it? If you're not sure what to comment, feel free to share which of these points resonated with you the most. Or let us know if there's a Stoic principle that has helped you handle challenges in your own life. We're excited to read your thoughts, so drop them in the comments below. 9. I don't need anyone. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. John Donne. This famous line captures a simple yet profound truth about human life. We are all interconnected, and pretending that you don't need anyone is like denying your own humanity. Yet, how many times have you heard someone say, or perhaps even thought yourself, "I don't need anyone"? It can be tempting to adopt this mindset, especially when you've been let down by others or faced disappointments in your relationships. But the truth is, saying, "I don't need anyone," might give you a sense of strength and independence, but it also closes you off to the support, connection, and growth that come from interacting with others. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, reminded us that we were born to work together, like feet, hands, and eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on them, these are obstructions. In other words, by isolating ourselves, we go against the very nature of being human, which thrives on cooperation and mutual support. Think about a time when you were facing a difficult situation. Did you get through it entirely on your own, or was there someone who offered a kind word, a bit of advice, or a helping hand? Often we are so focused on projecting an image of self-reliance that we forget the power and importance of allowing others into our lives. When you say, "I don't need anyone," you're not just pushing people away, you're also pushing away potential opportunities for growth, understanding, and even joy. The Stoic approach is not about cutting off from the world, but learning how to navigate it with wisdom, patience, and strength, and that involves recognizing the value of others in your journey. Asking for help, leaning on someone, or even just listening can be an act of wisdom, not weakness. After all, even the strongest trees stand firm because they are rooted in a network of soil that supports them. So, what about you? Are you rooted, or are you trying to stand alone against the storm? Consider this example from modern life. A successful business leader who built his company from the ground up. For years, he was the face of his brand, making every decision himself and rarely asking for input. He prided himself on his independence, but as the company grew, he struggled to manage everything alone. It wasn't until he started delegating, asking for advice from mentors, and building a strong team that his business truly flourished. He realized that success wasn't just about what he could do on his own, but about how he could leverage the strengths of others. His mindset shifted from "I don't need anyone" to "we can achieve more together." And that's the essence of it. Real strength doesn't come from isolation, but from collaboration. The need to appear self-sufficient is often rooted in fear. Maybe you've been hurt before, and saying "I don't need anyone" feels like a way to protect yourself from being vulnerable again. But what if, by keeping others out, you're also keeping out the possibility of deeper, more meaningful connections? The Stoics believed in being resilient, but they also understood the value of community. Seneca, another great Stoic, once said, "There is no enjoying the possession of anything valuable unless one has someone to share it with." This highlights that even if you achieve great things, the joy is magnified when you have others to celebrate with. So ask yourself, are you holding on to this mindset because it makes you feel strong, or because it's easier than facing the discomfort of depending on others? Imagine trying to navigate a maze blindfolded. It's hard, frustrating, and you're likely to make more wrong turns than right ones. But what if someone was there to guide you, to tell you when to turn and when to keep going straight? Wouldn't that make the journey easier, faster, and less exhausting? Life is a lot like that maze. You don't have to navigate it alone, and there's no shame in accepting guidance, support, or companionship. In fact, it's a sign of strength to recognize that you can't see everything and that others might have perspectives that can help you see the bigger picture. By saying, "I don't need anyone," you're choosing to remain blindfolded, struggling to find your way when there are people around you who are willing to help if you just let them. We live in a world that often glorifies individual success, where asking for help is sometimes seen as a sign of weakness. But think about the most successful people you admire. Did they truly do everything on their own? Or did they have mentors, partners, friends, and teams who supported them, offered insights, and stood by them in tough times? True independence is not about rejecting help, but about knowing when and how to ask for it. This doesn't mean you should rely on others to solve all your problems, but it does mean recognizing that collaboration and support are part of life's natural balance. Just like Marcus Aurelius pointed out, we are like parts of the body, designed to work together. The key lesson here is to shift your perspective from seeing dependence as a weakness to viewing it as a natural part of human interaction. It's okay to need someone. It's okay to ask for help. It doesn't make you any less capable, strong, or independent. In fact, it takes a strong, self-aware person to admit when they need support. So instead of saying, "I don't need anyone," try asking yourself, how can I make the most of the connections around me? What can I learn from others, and how can I offer my support in return? This kind of reciprocal relationship is what builds a strong, resilient, and fulfilling life. Next time you're tempted to say, "I don't need anyone," consider what you might be closing yourself off to. Could it be new ideas, new friendships, or even a solution to a problem you've been wrestling with? By opening yourself up, you not only allow others to help you, but also create a space where they feel valued and appreciated for their contributions. This is a simple but powerful way to build trust, empathy, and understanding. As you move forward, remember the words of Epictetus. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When you embrace your need for others, you're not adding more complications to your life. You're simplifying it by building a network of support and understanding that can help you weather any storm. Ultimately, the message is clear. Independence is admirable, but connection is essential. You don't have to face life's challenges alone. and there's no need to pretend that you do. By acknowledging that you need people and that they need you, you create a sense of unity and purpose that enriches your life in countless ways. So instead of isolating yourself with the thought, "I don't need anyone," start building bridges, start connecting, and see how your life changes for the better. Because the truth is, we're all in this together, and the sooner we realize that, the stronger we'll become. As we wrap up, remember that the words we choose to speak can shape our mindset, influence our actions, and ultimately define our lives. The key message here is to be mindful of what we say, because phrases like, "It's not fair," "I will never be happy," or "I don't need anyone" can limit our growth and prevent us from living fully. Stoicism teaches us to embrace challenges, take responsibility, and connect meaningfully with others. By avoiding these negative phrases, we can cultivate a more resilient, positive, and fulfilling life. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others who might need this wisdom, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Stoic in Your Life. Make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos on how to live a balanced, thoughtful, and empowered life through Stoic principles. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.